The Melody of the Heart. Written by Star Origin. Narrated by Waybaser. Prologue. Following the Changeling invasion in Canterlot 2 weeks ago, the security around Canterlot had been heavily fortified. The Royal Guard even went as far as to recruit soldiers from the surrounding towns of Equestria. They were picky about who they chose, though, and mostly went after ponies that were already skilled at maintaining peace, such as nightclub bouncers or security guards. Among those ponies was Starblaze, a white-coated unicorn that used to be head of security at a laboratory located in Manhattan. He was never the best magician, and he was a bit messy too. His orange mane was untidy, and strands of orange hair stuck to his fur after a day spent in Canterlot patrolling in search of any anomaly. The only issue was that if foes decided to pull a prank on him, he would technically have to give chase until he caught up with them. He usually managed to find the troublemakers, but after a while the original trio had told the other foes about him. His days since then were even more hectic than before. His blue eyes stared absent-mindedly at the landscape in front of him while waiting for the train that would take him back to Manhattan. The many bags under his eyes were proof enough that the last few nights he hadn't exactly been the best of his life. That aside, while his facial expression reeked of fatigue and depression, his musculature wasn't all that bad. He doubted he would ever be qualified to star in some mature magazine sold across Equestria, but his physical attributes weren't that bad when compared to some of the other ponies waiting for a train. To be fair, he was built a lot more physically than most ponies around him. Of course, having been trained as a guard since he left high school had helped him a lot, and ever since the death of his parents when he was still in high school, he had needed to pick some jobs to keep himself alive and pay his educational bills. That alone had given him a strong and stable personality, but also strengthened his social abilities in the sense that he needed to adapt to them to survive. Many other races thought that Equestria was a haven compared to other kingdoms, but in fact, it was just as cruel economically to ponies as to anyone else. The only advantage ponies had over some others was that they had the princess to keep wars and internal conflicts at bay. Starblaze's gaze was slowly directed on the ground of the train station platform. The floor, made up of bricks like most of Canterlot, was colored with a monotonous white. It wouldn't have been so bad if only the floor were like this. But the entire train station was built that way. All the walls were white, and in only 2 weeks, Starblaze had already gotten annoyed with the monotony of the capital. It was a majestic city in his opinion. The main complaint he had about Canterlot was that it was too monotonous for his taste. And even after he had gotten used to Canterlot, the color scheme of the town still made him cringe a bit on the inside. While Starblaze was lost in his thoughts, he had completely ignored the stallion that had just called him from afar. His ears had perked up, but he ignored them and resumed his train of thought. The other pony had to tap on Star's shoulder to finally have his presence acknowledged. Starblaze jumped a bit and instinctively took a few steps backward. He looked up to find who or what had startled him. He was not a bit surprised when he saw a stallion with a golden coat and a dark blue mane. The Pegasus in front of him snickered and put a hoof over his mouth in an attempt to remain respectful towards the white stallion, but failed.